Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Five Star Revolution podcast with your host, CJ Price. We are killing the business with the wrestling podcast, so thank you so much for joining us. And tonight we have a very special guest. She is the Queen of Kentucky. Her name is Judi Hendrix. How you doing tonight?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Not doing too bad. Thanks for joining me here tonight. And once again, I appreciate you coming on my show.
Absolutely. I love doing this stuff.
So, folks, don't forget to join us on Facebook, Five Star Revolution Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now if you haven't already. So, Miss Hendricks, I always ask this question to every person that comes on my podcast. I want to know, were you a wrestling fan growing up? And if so, who are your favorites?
I was a wrestling fan growing up. I was a huge wrestling fan growing up. Some of my favorites would have to be AJ Lee. I was a huge fan of Dolph Ziggler. I was a huge fan. Let's see. I like AJ Styles a lot to this day. I'm a AJ Styles fan. Um, we go back to the Divas era. Of course, my trainer, Jillian Hall. I watch her and study her a lot. Um, I was a fan of Mickey James and Victoria. Victoria had to be like one of my favorites back from the Divas era. Um, yeah, I'm mainly like female wrestling driven.
So, was anyone in your family a wrestling fan? Is that how you got into wrestling? Like, how did you get into wrestling?
Actually, yeah, my brother was into it way before I was. So he would watch it, and I would kind of like be in the background, like, oh, yeah, this is interesting, and I would like sit and kind of pick up on it. And then one night there was like the tag match between like AJ, Tamina, and I think maybe Oksana, and then the Funkadactyls and Natalia. And then that match was like the match I became a diehard wrestling fan because I finally got to watch AJ, like watching AJ in action. That absolutely like was inspiring to me because in a way I was kind of like AJ and she like kind of it. I don't know how to exactly put it, but like at that time she like looked like me, she was built like me, she dressed like me, and I just felt very like represented there. So I was like, you know what, if she can do it, I can too.
So, did you watch that match in person or on TV?
I watched it on TV.
Okay, so my next question was gonna be do you remember your first ever live event you went to?
Ooh. Indie wrestling or just WWE wrestling
And
or
it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
because I think my first wrestling show may have been like a traveling NWA show. Um, I do remember that show. I had a blast that night. I bought stuff off of some indie wrestlers, which I still have some stuff. It was at the Ashland Armory here in Ashland, Kentucky, and I can't remember too many people, but I do have a picture of me by the ring, and I have my John Cena T-shirt on, and I'm like pointing at the ring. I'm like, yeah. And at that time, I was like, this is the day I drop out of school. I'm gonna be a wrestler. I'm gonna be super successful. Needless to say, I finished school, but that was not the day I got to be a wrestler. But that night made my life.
So, when was the moment that popped into your head? I want to do this. I want to become a pro wrestler. So, when was that time that you decided you wanted to get into it?
So about the time I wanted to like the light bulb went off. It's like, you know what, this is kind of what I want to do. I was taking a careers class in school. It was like middle school, and you know those tests like you take like it's based off of your interests or something like that, and it's like most likely, um, like you it's like I do like doing this, I don't like doing this, and it pops up like suggestions of things you should do or something like that. And one of my first one came back as a professional athlete, and I'm like, I'm taking this as my golden sign, and I'm gonna run with it. So that's what I did, and honestly, I just haven't looked back since that class. And that whole class, we took the interest test. We like figured out like salaries, what you would make a year. Um, the careers class taught us like it taught us very basic, like what you can and can't afford with what your job is. We got to learn how to put a resume together and stuff. So very basic, but I think I still have my resume that I put together, and I made up like a bunch of stuff on there. I'm like, yeah, I'm a 15-time champion. Absolutely not. But uh, I still haven't won a belt to this day. Um, but it's okay. I'm with due time we'll get there. But hopefully on that resume that I made, like half of the stuff is kind of gonna match up.
So, how'd you figure about wrestling school in your area? How'd you find that out? And what were your first impressions when you first got into wrestling school?
Um, so I went to wrestling school. I started out in a garage. I started out in a four-car garage or four-car door garage, and it just had a ring chilling in there. And leave. I went to I went to a show, and the people that I was talking to some guys, and they were like, "Yeah, come on down." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I come down that weekend, and see, it was me, like three or four dudes that were like in their late 30s or 40s and doing this a little bit. Um, there's Chris Cannon and a big dude. His name's Chris Hughes, but we call him Moose. And if he's watching, he knows I'm talking about him. He's big and scary, but he's not really scary, but it kind of is. I don't. Moose is a big dude. Anyway, so I went there and for a little bit, trained there about 6 or so months. After about like the first few weeks after I first started training, so I started training the first few weeks, Shane Douglas joined us, the franchise. So I got trained under him and Chris Cannon for about 6 or so months. And then I took the opportunity to train with someone who's been in my shoes, someone who's closer to me after she got cleared postpartum and all that stuff. Um, I started training with Jillian Hall, and then not long after that, Bobby Blaze. And I finished, I don't want to say I finished my training because you never quit training. But I kind of like polished my craft with them. And then now I'm still with Julian at the hip toss house. I don't know if we got like our little thing going on at the hip toss house where we just kind of like do this. Kind of looks like we're giving a hip toss, but we're not. Um, on Sundays, it's about like a 4 or 5 hour class with Jillian, and we do that every week on Sundays. And that's the up to date part with my training right now.
So, when you first got into the ring, did you imagine it was gonna hurt as bad?
Oh, I was trying to figure out every possible way I could not get hurt. I was like, maybe if I do this and like do that. No, it's just there. You either get hurt or you don't. There's no way around it.
So, to piggyback off that, what do you say to those people that think wrestling is fake?
To those people that think wrestling is fake, well, dear people that think wrestling is fake, come to training, put in your work. Come to when I first started training with Shane Douglas, we had like 6, 7 hour days, and it hurt. And where sometimes my sugar would drop and I'd have to sit out a little bit and join back in. But it was pretty painful. Um, so the people that think wrestling is fake, come put in a 6, 7 hour day at training, falling on your back, protecting other people, running the ropes, out of breath. Now you got to lift somebody. Now you got to get down. Now you got to get back up. Now you got to jump. Now you got to lift somebody again. Now you got to pose for the camera. Now you got to pretend that you're somebody that you're not. Now you got to get back on it. Do that for about 50, try doing that about 10 to 15 minutes, 4 nights a week, training about 6 to 7 hours a day on a regular basis, on a regular training basis, which is about 2 to 3 days a week. Give it about a month. Tell me how your body feels, and then tell me if it's fake.
I agree with you. I used to be a wrestler myself, When people used to be like, "Oh, you're gonna do that fake stuff," I'm like, "Yeah, come to training and we'll see how fake it is."
My favorite is when they're like, "Oh, so does it hurt when you get chopped?" I'm like, "I don't know. You tell me." I think me personally, I think I have a pretty nasty chop. So like when they're like, "Does that wrestling stuff, that fake stuff, does it hurt?" I'm like, "I don't know. You tell me."
So, to those people that are listening to the show right now that don't know who you are, mind explaining who Judi Hendrix is and the character, what it's about?
Judi Hendrix is a Kentucky native, um, representing Kentucky culture, Appalachian culture. She's the queen of Kentucky, so she represents Kentucky in everything she does. Um, we're still like in the process of developing who she is, but she is a backwoods girl mixed with her Native American heritage, with the that in the war paint and getting I'm getting gear that incorporates some of my Native American stuff. But all in all, we're just trying to like repro- I don't I'm just trying to like put out there like Kentucky and heritage and true culture all together. Stuff that people stereotype that's not really stereotyped. It's just it is, like it's unlabeled but it's real.
So, not many people also know that you're a very, very young wrestler. You're like what,
Yes.
19 years old?
I'm 19 years old. Yes.
19. So, when did you start training?
I started training a month after I turned 18.
So, only been like what, a year and some change in the business?
Yeah. Going on 2 years. So this March will be 2 years, but it's been 1 year since I've had my first match. I think it's pretty cool.
So 2 years in the almost 2 years in the business. So you started when coronavirus first
Oh
started.
my god, yes.
How was that for you?
Oh my god, I got about a month into training, and then all of a sudden training shut down. I'm like, well, shoot, what am I supposed to do with my time now? So then they like sent us some like ideas. They're like, run X amount every day, do this workout, watch these videos, take notes, watch matches, take notes. And then like sometimes we would have training with like masks and distancing and whatnot. Uh, but then things started picking up, and then it fell again, and his it was a mess. But when I started with Jillian, then it started becoming more consistent.
Okay. All right.
Nothing against like when training. When I first started with training, it was just Chris Cannon, and then after things started picking back up again, that's when Shane Douglas came in, and then I was training with them and Jillian, and then uh it just kept pushing and pushing. But like when I first started training, it was almost impossible to get like days in the ring because of the virus, just out of the blue, just ta-da. It also took my senior year of high school.
Wow. So not only did you deal with COVID, so it was hard enough to get bookings as it is. Is it harder to get bookings as a female in Kentucky?
um I wouldn't say necessarily it's harder. I do think it's harder in this area, like in the because I'm right on the tip of the Northeast Kentucky. So right here in the Ohio, West Virginia, um, Kentucky area, it's harder to get out there where like all the big talent is at. So unless you travel, you kind of got to travel to get noticed. So unless you travel, you're not really getting much. Plus, I would say social media is a big plus. Um, like as far as promoting yourself, promoting your abilities, promoting wrestling and stuff, that does help you get noticed. But unless everybody is sharing it, nobody really gonna see it.
So are you ready for a challenge?
I'm ready for a challenge, absolutely.
This is the part of the podcast where I asked the wrestler to cut a promo for me for like 30 seconds in character if you can. You think you can do it?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm willing to try. I'm sorry if I embarrass myself, guys, but all
On,
right,
on anything you want, 30 seconds. If you can't do it, you can't do it. But if you can, I want to hear it.
all right. Let me hang on. Let me. Whew, okay. Okay. I think I can try something. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is your Kentucky Queen, Judi Hendrix, the Savage Daughter, the backwoods badass, Judi Hendrix. And I am here in Kentucky right now challenging anybody for my crown. Anybody. I don't care if you're big. I don't care if you're small. I don't care if you're a boy. I don't care if you're a girl. I am challenging anybody because not only am I the queen of Kentucky, I am the queen of the ring.
I love that. That was really good. That was not bad at all. Thank you. That was
Thank
really
you.
good. So with that with that promo that you just did, I'm taking it that you're a heel.
Um, I naturally come off as a heel, but I'm more so a baby face.
I think you should be a heel.
I come off as a heel. My trainer was a Jillian was a heel the majority of her career, so like her teaching like heel tactics, it kind of comes natural. Like she explains heel psychology so well that like I think it's starting to pick up naturally.
Are you the only female in your wrestling school?
No, we have another one. She lives I don't know where she lives at, but she comes. Right now, she has COVID, so she missed this past Sunday. So Tiffany, if you're watching, I hope you feel better. Um, and then we have another girl, Tara from Power Slam Academy, also in the same area, trained by Chance Profit, and she joins us occasionally. So we're not
So
the only ones.
so sometimes you do train with the male wrestlers.
I train with the male wrestlers always. Um, it doesn't, in my opinion, in the ring, gender is irrelevant because we all do the same thing. We do get some of them. I do. When I first started training, everybody's like, "We can't hit her. She's a girl." I'm like, "What does it matter? Like, we're all doing the same thing. It's gonna hurt the same." So, like, inside the squared circle, gender is out the window because it's wrestling.
Right, I agree. I agree with you there. There's a lot of people out there that think differently though, that doesn't feel like a male and a female should be in the ring. So what is your take on intergender wrestling? Do you think you could take part of it or
I do think I could do some intergender wrestling, but I do have like I don't want to contradict what I just said, but like we have to make everything look real. It has to be legit. Here's legit. Can a man out can a woman out wrestle a man? Yes. Could a woman outpower a man? To an extent. Can a woman is it believable that a woman's just going to beat up a guy and he's going to let her? No. So, if it's a true wrestling match, the basics hip toss, arm drag, body slam, hold to hold wrestling. Yes, but the second a man raises his fist to a woman in the ring, that does not look very good.
I agree. See, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, I agree. So you have to draw a gray line with that kind of stuff and how you present it.
Absolutely. Because to some people, it looks like domestic violence. To some people, it looks like a monster just hitting a woman, and that's not what we're trying to show. We're trying to show the women can hang with the men, not the men are going to dominate the women.
Absolutely. Well said. So, dream matches. What are some dream matches you have in mind that you think you can accomplish in the next, what, 12 to 16 months?
Jillian Hall. Well, I don't want to say I'm calling you out, but I do want to wrestle my trainer one on one. We have like put this. We've talked about this like 3 or 4 times, but we've just never gotten around to it. So whenever she's ready to get back in the ring, I'll be ready.
Is she still active or?
Um, she does appearances and stuff, and she does some managing. But as far as wrestling, she's very um. As far as wrestling, um, she doesn't really do it as she doesn't do it on a regular basis. Let's just say that she don't do it on a regular basis. She's a full-time mom now, and that's kind of where her priorities are. With Violet, her daughter. So she's she'll always love wrestling, but like her heart's set on being a full-time mom right now.
I used to love Jillian Hall back in WWE. She was an excellent wrestler, and her character was funny as hell. So
Fun fact: she came up with that character herself.
very nice, very nice. So what can we expect out of Judi Hendrix in the next 3 years? Where can we see you in the next 3 years? You think?
In the next 3 years, well, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out there. You can catch me on OVW TV on Thursday nights. So that's what I've accomplished in 1 year. Next year,
I was gonna get to that. I was gonna get to that.
okay. See, this year I would like to be on like AEW Dark or like an extra for NXT or maybe on NWA, do some extra work. The following year or next year, I would like to be trying out for a major company.
So how'd you? That was gonna be my next topic. How'd you end up in OVW in such a short time?
Um, well, the OVW women's division does not have a lot of women, and a lot of them are like rotating out. Like like a lot of the girls are going out to the bigger companies, and then we got to bring new ones in. So they were kind of like a lot of people just rotated out. Those other girls took the girls that were left took the top spots, and they need a new fresh set of girls. I was one of the girls that got like messaged by Maria, who was like, "Hey, I like your work. I've worked you before. Would you be interested in coming to OVW?" And of course, I've sat down and talked about it with my with Jillian, and um, we ended up, like, all right, we can do this. Go down there, be professional, be good. Um, uh, show what you can do and stuff like that. And so I was like, all right, yeah, I'll take the opportunity. And I went down there. I tried to be as very respectful. Um, I tried I tried my best to be very professional, and I showed everybody what I could do with what I was given.
So I've had a couple of OVW guys on here. I've had Ronnie Roberts on here. I'm sure you know about Ronnie.
Reverend, yeah,
I'm gonna have Killer Kobe Max coming on the podcast. He's an OVW.
that's my tag team partner.
Really?
Yes, we are Chemical X. She bought me this shirt and she got me a matching one because we're Chemical X. She claims to be Buttercup and I claim to be Bubbles. Right now, we're kind of looking for a Blossom.
So you can tell her how awesome the podcast was.
Oh, absolutely, I will.
So yeah, I've had a couple of OVW guys and girls now on the podcast. So it was you guys are all awesome, and I'm very proud of you especially and Kobe Max because you guys are two young female stars on the rise already in OVW. So I'm very proud of you. That's a great accomplishment right
Thank
there.
you. Thank you very much.
So how do you feel as a young female backstage with all that talent in OVW?
Um, uh, Lord, I kind of feel like because out on the indies, well, depending on the location of the indies, like it's just like I'm a fish in a tiny pond. There, I feel like a minnow in a river, and then as I get like the farther I go up the ladder, the smaller I will feel in comparison to everybody else there. Like I'm very timid to talk to like unless I'm spoken to. I'm very timid to talk because I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be unprofessional. Um, it's kind of overwhelming every time I walk through the doors. It's just like holy crap, the amount of people that's came through these doors is absolutely
Yeah.
insane. But at the same time, it's just like I can't believe I'm here. Like I'm walking through these doors after everybody else, like Jillian Hall, like Mickey James, like Victoria, like CM Punk, like John Cena, like Randy Orton, walked through those doors. It's crazy.
Yep. So I definitely see a bright future in your career, my friend.
Thank you very much.
So speaking of bright futures, do you think you can make it to the big stage? Do you think you have what it takes?
I do. In the bottom of my heart, I do think I can make it. My dream, everybody's like, my dream is to main event WrestleMania. My dream is to be the longest reigning champion. My dream is to be the champion. My dream, my dream is to make it. And I'll come up with some new dreams when I get that one.
I was gonna ask you, once you make it, what do you want to do when you make it?
You know, I've never really thought about that. I guess I'll just find out when I get there.
Okay, all right. So my last question for you, Mrs. Hendricks, is where can our fans follow you on social media? Where can they keep in contact with you?
Instagram and Twitter at real Judi Hendrix. Judi is spelled Judi.
Judi, folks. Don't forget it. Follow
Don't
her on
forget.
Instagram, follow her on Facebook, whatever platforms you have. Judi Hendrix, we appreciate you joining us here on the Five Star Revolution podcast. It was a true pleasure. We wish you the best of luck in your career.
Thank you very much.
Any last words before we let you go?
Um, acknowledge the queen, y'all. Acknowledge the queen.
Well, there you go, folks. Go follow us on Facebook, Five Star Revolution Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Miss Judi Hendrix, have a great night.
You too.